time. Frank wanted to run for Congress back in the 3rd grade in Philadelphia. He had some barriers, he had some problems. Not everybody was encouraging him at that age, or probably even later. One of Frank's problems, as he'll say to some people, is he stuttered. So did Moses, and they've got some things in common that you'll see pretty soon. Like Moses, Frank has had a great partner and encourager through so much of his life, and that's Carolyn. I don't know how many of you know Carolyn, but she's great, and I don't guess she's here today. They have 5 children, grown children, and 16 grandchildren, I believe. Frank is in his 16th term, representing one of the districts in Northern Virginia. Frank has long been a crusader for human rights. After Georgetown Law School, he became an attorney with the Army. He then worked for his own congressman from Pennsylvania. He was an assistant to Interior Secretary Rogers Morton, and he was elected on his 3rd try to Congress. And that was an inspiration to some of us who were running for Congress at one time. So Frank led the first congressional delegation to Darfur and called attention to the crisis there, which was eventually recognized by our government as genocide. He's also worked to call attention to the human rights abuses and religious persecution in the People's Republic of China, Tibet, Romania, Chechnya, Bosnia, Kosovo, East Timor, some country, Frank, that I can't pronounce, and the Middle East. So, like Moses, Frank's driving cause is to liberate people from their oppressors, from their bondage, and from their chains of captivity. And he is an eloquent witness to all of the messages you said, Chris, and I know you've worked with him for many years, and it's my honor to welcome Frank.
Well, thank you. I'll be very brief. Thank you for the comments, Bo. I appreciate it. Good to see you with you. Bob, it's good to be with you, and congratulations on the 10th anniversary. And I believe the previous speaker was one of the ones that we were scheduled to meet with when Chris and I were in Beijing just for the Olympics, who was arrested before. We had a gathering scheduled, and everyone but one was arrested. And the one that was arrested, that got there, was arrested, I think, the next day. And Clark Grant, our ambassador, did absolutely nothing about it, to be honest with you. And so that brings us up to this current date. The people like this individual and like the others are basically similar to Solzhenitsyn or Sharansky. They are the Solzhenitsyns and the Sharansky of China. And there's not much more that I could add, because I followed the leadership of Chris Smith on a lot of these issues, and I would second what Chris said and also what Jim McGovern said, and maybe try to say something, my own perspective of what I think is going to happen. I think the Chinese government will collapse before you get to your 20th anniversary. If you look at history, in 1986, few people thought that the Soviet Union would collapse. In fact, as the CIA had teams looking at it, and they were basically saying that the Soviet Union was strong. I had the former Polish ambassador, Spazowski, who walked out of the Polish embassy into the Reagan White House and defected, come out to my house in 1986 and tell me with my children that Russia was dominating, powerful. We did not understand in the United States how they were ascending, and that they were going to be around for a long, long period of time. We heard the same thing. First trip I took with Congressman Chris Smith when we went to Romania in 1985, the same thing, Ceausescu powerful. And in 86, in a visit, few thought that Ceausescu would ever fall. And 3 years later, we see what took place to Ceausescu at that Christmas season, and we see what took place with the Berlin Wall. I see David Aikman, who translated much of the comments that Solzhenitsyn made at that time. We see that they both fell. And Whittaker Chambers, if you've never read his book, Witness, Whittaker Chambers, the book Witness, if you have not read it, is a book that should be read by everyone. Whittaker Chambers, who was a member of the Communist Party, said that when he left the Communist Party, he said, I believe that I was leaving the winning side and joining the losing side. You remember Nixon and the pumpkin papers. And Whittaker Chambers believed that communism was ascending and we were descending. And Whittaker Chambers was wrong. He was wrong because of people like Ronald Reagan and Scoop Jackson. He was wrong like people who stood out, boldly speaking out. Ronald Reagan, who told the Soviet Union to tear down the wall, who in 1983 at the National Association of Evangelicals in Orlando, Florida, called the Soviet Union for what they are, the evil empire. And we see that there was a dramatic change. Bring us up to current times. The Chinese people are wonderful people. They thirst. In fact, as with the internet, I think the Soviet Union would have collapsed faster than it did, and Ceausescu would have gone faster. So I believe freedom is coming. It is, history just brings it about, and freedom is coming. And when the Chinese people are free, the opportunity for democracy and freedom is amazing. So I tell the gentleman I appreciate his courage. I don't know that I would be that courageous. If I were living in a totalitarian country, would I be willing to get on the internet and say what he said? Would I be willing to go to meetings with the American embassy? Would I be willing to do what Chen did with regard to when he spoke out against the one-child policy, to do what he did? I don't know, because I don't know. I've never been tested that way. I would like to think that I would, but I do know that they have done it. So I believe, as I congratulate you, Bob, and I appreciate all your good work, and all of you who helped Bob on your 10th anniversary, the 20th anniversary, they will be referring back, whether it be 2 years or 7 years or 6 years or whatever the case may be, to the fall and the collapse of the Republic in China, and where freedom and democracy and the Catholic Church can worship in freedom. The Catholic bishops, Cardinal Sue Bishop, that Chris Smith took Holy Communion from and was taken away and never seen except for one other time, maybe in a black limousine being taken away, that the Uyghurs that he mentioned can live in freedom, that the Dalai Lama can return to Tibet. And keep in mind, 41 Tibetan monks and nuns in the last 6 or 7 months have poured gasoline on themselves and have set themselves aflame. And the evangelical and the house church can come out, and China can be a great free nation in combination with America. So, Bob, thank you very much. And all of you, thank for what you've done to help Bob and help China Aid do. And lastly, to all the freedom-loving people, I won't say dissidents, but freedom-loving people in China who are willing to speak out, I thank you very, very much. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Wolf, for your leadership and courage too in your tireless effort in defending the freedom in China. I think you will be remembered in Tiananmen Square too, and a free China. And this gentleman, Dr. Tong Biao, with whom you met in 2005 when China Aid organized the first human rights lawyers delegation to the U.S., and with Dr. Tong Biao, Dr. Fan Yafeng, Attorney Li Heping, and all of them now cannot travel and are disbarred. And thank you, Congressman Wolf. And we actually are authorized, are commissioned to also deliver another 10 awards by the Chinese Human Rights Lawyers, Human Rights Defense Lawyers Association, which was established 2 years ago by the group of disbarred lawyers. Because the Chinese government has the government organized, they called All China Lawyers Association. And so every year they select their best lawyers, they call it in China. And but this group, they were disbarred because their human rights defense work. They just voluntarily organized their own association, which itself is wonderful and fabulous. And of course, as soon as they announced the establishment, the leaders were already warned that you cannot be registered in Chinese government, and even the Hong Kong Special Administrative Regions government were already notified they cannot register in Hong Kong. Thank God we have the United States of America, freedom of association. So we just registered, help them register overnight, 24 hours. And so they authorized us to deliver their first year the Best 10 Human Rights Defense Lawyers Award for 2001. So these are the names that they cast a secret ballot in China, and they cannot deliver the award inside Chinese soil. So we help them deliver these awards today. And the best 10 human rights defense lawyers list is lawyer Gao Zhisheng, lawyer Zhong Ancheng, lawyer Wang Yunghang, who himself was disabled because of the beaten for defending Falun Gong practitioners from Liaoning, and Miss Liu Wei, who was disbarred and also persecuted, and lawyer Tang Jitian, and lawyer Li Subin, who is the first acting president of the Chinese Human Rights Defense Lawyers Association, and Dr. Tong Biao, and attorney Jiang Tianyong, attorney Li Heping, attorney Li Xiongbing, and a special award they want to recognize who is not a lawyer but a constitutional law scholar, is Dr. Fan Yafeng. So we are glad that attorney Gao Zhisheng's wife, Ms. Gong He, is here with us. As all of you know, how much suffering her husband had been experiencing. And Gao Zhisheng is a Christian human rights lawyer and who was the founder of the Beijing Zhisheng law firm. He handled a number of controversial cases, means human rights cases, including the Northern Shanxi oil field case, the Christian persecution case in Kashgar, Xinjiang, the Chen Guangchong case, and Falun Gong cases. On December 22nd, 2006, Gao Zhisheng was charged with the inciting subversion of state power and sentenced to 3 years imprisonment with a 2-year reprieve and 5-year deprivation of political rights, and was released to go home. But on September 21st, 2007, he was arrested again and held for 50 days. After his release, he wrote an account entitled Dark Night, Dark Hold, and Kidnapping by Dark Mafia. He wrote an account, he described the torture inflicted on him, including toothpicks inserted in his genitals. On January 9th, 2009, his wife and 2 children, Gong He and 2 children, left Beijing secretly, escaping from China for the United States via Thailand. I remember the next day when I flew to Bangkok to meet with them, they were virtually wandering on the street without much help. And thank God, I was able to get some help from our local church pastor and bought the most expensive ticket, air tickets ever, and I went to Thailand the next day when I heard about it. On February the 4th, 2009, Gao Zhisheng was again kidnapped by the authorities and disappeared. On March 27th, 2012, he suddenly resurfaced by the authority, though under the surveillance of the Chinese plainclothes police, only to disappear again on April 20th. On January the 1st, 2012, it was confirmed that Gao Zhisheng was serving a 3-year sentence at a prison in Shaya County Aksu District, Xinjiang. On March the 24th, 2012, Gao's family, for the first time, was allowed to visit him at his prison for the first time. But after that, no communication with him again served. So I think numerous human rights organizations are planning to launch a new wave of campaign to free Gao. So if you want to know more about the attorney Gao Zhisheng's story, you can log on our website. We launched it called freegao.com, freegao.com, and mobilize more signatures. And so far, we have gathered over 150,000 signatures from over 190 nations. I mean, you talk about Filipinos, Brazilians, and even Iranians signed their signature for Free Gao. And we're so thankful that at least his wife and the 2 children were able to come to the U.S. By the rescue effort of ours and other organizations. And we want to welcome Ms. Gong He to give a brief remark on behalf of her husband. Yeah.
大家好，中华律师维权协会授予高志胜10佳律师奖，这是对高志胜几年来为中国人权付出与贡献的认可。
Good afternoon. The Chinese Human Rights Defense Lawyers Association has decided to award Gao Zhisheng 10 Best Lawyers Award. This is a recognition to Gao Zhisheng's dedication and sacrifice for Chinese human rights during the past couple of years.
正是因为他坚信中国必定会实现人权与法治，正是因为他为此理念坚守人性与良知，正是因为他将此理念付诸于行动，不懈地帮助那些需要帮助的人们，才使饱经受专制摧残的人们看到一丝希望，才能使没有自由的人们意识到自由的渴望与美好。
Gao Zhisheng has strongly believed that China will eventually realize rule of law and will eventually respect human rights. For that belief, he adheres to his humanity and conscience, and he put these beliefs into practice by helping those who needed his help. His actions has brought a glimpse of hope to people who were cruelly persecuted. His actions also bring home the beauty and the importance of freedom to people who has no freedom.
高志胜所遭受的迫害众所周知，在他5年的缓刑期间，高志胜大部分时间是强迫失踪的，最长一次的失踪是1年零8个月。每当高志胜的大哥到北京去寻找高志胜的下落，都被挡在政府所有大门口，经历了无数的训喝、辱骂和推搡，绝望的返回。
All the cruel treatment and persecution that Gao Zhisheng has endured now it's globally known. During his 5 years of probation, he was in a state of being disappeared most of the time. The longest time of disappearance was 1 year and 8 months. Each time when Gao Zhisheng's elder brother went to Beijing to look for his whereabouts, he was blocked access to all the Chinese government agencies. And he endured countless physical and verbal abuse and returned home without any progress. Those 2 years, we lived in true desperation.
那5年，我们全家都一直生活在绝望当中。而缓刑5年结束后，他们又将高志胜投入到极为边远的新疆监狱。从去年年底到现在，3月24号，家人看过一次。但是到现在呢，已经整整4个月了。家人打了上千次的电话，监狱不接我们的电话，现在又是没有任何的音讯。
After his 5-year probation was overdue, they once again put him in prison, this time in a very remote prison in Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. During this time, we've only seen him once on March the 24th. Ever since then, we've never heard anything from him. My family members back in China have made thousands of phone calls, and the jail refused to pick up the phone call.
今天我在这里得知获10家律师的还有江天勇、滕彪、范亚芬、李素斌，这些与高志胜亲如兄弟的律师同行，我眼前浮现出他们曾经在一起讨论案子的身影。可是现在，他们中有的是关进了监狱，多数的被吊销了执照，他们经常的失踪和软禁着。
Okay. Today, I'm so happy to hear that together with Gao Zhisheng, all other lawyers, including Jiang Tianyong, Teng Biao, Fan Yafeng, Li Subin, are also awarded the 10 Best Lawyer Award. They are like brothers to Gao Zhisheng. I can still clearly recall scenarios when they were together discussing different cases. But now, some of them are in prison, some of them have lost their license, lawyer license are disbarred, some are being disappeared, and some are illegally detained.
这些为法治和人权拼死奋战的律师们，无论他们的自身和他们的家人都付出了巨大的代价，他们所遭受的迫害让文明世界的人难以想象。
For people from the civilized world like us, it is very hard to imagine what they and their family have paid, what dear price they have paid for their cause of pursuing rule of law and human rights.
我也欣慰地看见，虽然中国主持正义的律师遭到严酷的打压和迫害，但是中国有勇气和担当的律师依然不断地涌现。在此，我表示由衷的佩服。
However, I'm also happy to see that while these courageous and just lawyers are being cruelly persecuted and oppressed, more and more courageous and just lawyers are still emerging. I want to show them my greatest admiration.
他们都是中国的脊梁和希望，希望能有更多的人受到感召，不断地站出来为中国的人权和法治尽一份力量。
They are the backbones of China. They bring hope to China. I wish more and more people will be inspired by their courage and will stand out to contribute to human rights and rule of law in China.
高志胜一天没有自由，我跟孩子就没有自由。
As long as Gao Zhisheng is not free, I and my children are not free either.
感谢对华援助，对高志胜的支持和对我们家的帮助。
Thank you, China Aid, for your support and help to me and our whole family and Gao Zhisheng.
Thank you, Ms. Gong He, and I'm also glad that the Executive Vice President of Baylor University, Ms. Kathy Wright, sorry, is also in our midst, and Ms. Gong He's daughter, Grace Gao, was graciously accepted by Baylor University. Just started her summer session. So pray for her to endure the the 4 years of Baylor. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know we're sort of running a little late, but I do appreciate for all of your dedication and support. And I forgot to recognize the government affairs liaison for Voice of Martyrs. Where's Peggy? She's still here. Peggy Dao. Could you? Yeah. Thank you. She has been a faithful partner and supporter. And we have Mr. Dennis Halpin, who is the senior aide to the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and who has been always helpful and on the side of human rights and religious freedom and rule of law in China. Thank you, Dennis. Well, without too many introductions, because I think the House side are ready to clean up.